Welcome to another week in the life of the Nigerian legislature. Welcome to the Gavel. I'm Terry Ikumi. What a sad week it was for Parliament and indeed the Nigeria Customs Service. A public hearing of the House of Representatives Committee on Public Accounts took a sad turn on Tuesday when a Deputy Controller of the Nigeria Customs Service, Andrew Essien, slumped and died while responding to questions from members of the committee. A statement from the House spokesperson, Akin Rotimi, said the officer suddenly developed health complications and was rushed to the National Assembly clinic where he eventually passed away. The chairman of the Committee on Public Accounts, on his part, in a statement explained that Mr. Essien had suddenly requested for water just before he slumped. Honorable Bamidele Salam, who is the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, describes him as eloquent, just as the committee resolved to suspend hearings for a week in his honor. Meanwhile, the Nigeria Customs Service has described the death of Mr. Essien as sad and shocking. A statement by its spokesperson, Abdullahi Mewada, says the late Deputy Controller, who put in over 3 decades of service to the service, was known for his diligence and exceptional service record in the accounts unit. He says the Comptroller General of Customs, Bashir Adeni, extends his heartfelt condolences to the family of the late Deputy Comptroller. Now, at the resumption of plenary on Thursday, a moment of silence was held in his honor by the Senate. May his soul continue to rest in peace. And speaking of resumption of plenary, after 2 weeks of recess, the National Assembly resumed a new legislative session and passed amendments to the 2023 Appropriation Act and supplementary budget. Take a listen.
Following 2 weeks of recess, the National Assembly resumes a new legislative session, days after the passing of the former Deputy Controller of Customs, Mr. Etop Essien, who slumped during an interface with the House of Representatives Committee on Public Accounts. A minute silence is observed in his honor.
Essien Etop Andrew, who died in the service of his fatherland, rest in perfect peace.
The predominant business of the day is contained in a correspondence by President Bola Tinubu, who is seeking an extension of the implementation of the capital component of the 2023 Appropriation Act and supplementary budget.
These bills, therefore, intend to further extend the implementation period of both acts to 31st December 2024 in view of the strategic importance of some key projects that are nearing completion and to allow for continued implementation for the maximum benefit of the country.
We should, in passing the budget, put a clause that those to be employed, the projects to be implemented are purely that of capital or maybe selected recurrent, if any. But if we do it blankly like that, I have reliable information that items that are recurrent in the previous year budget are being implemented because there is a blank check given to them.
Because of this extension, somebody decides to appropriate or to take the money for a seminar he did not attend, then it means ICPC will look into it. So don't worry about it. The agents, all the agencies of government have different jobs to do. But I take cognizance of what you have just said. But remember what Senator Orji Sokalo said. We are extending the lifespan of a budget. And we are extending the lifespan of the supplementary budget. The other issues of implementation are left to the executive. Then the issue of oversight is left to the legislature. We are going to do the oversight and be sure of what they are doing. And from time to time, we are here. They will bring their reports, and then they will bring their findings, and we'll look into those findings. We can conclude the problems of the future at this stage.
Similarly, in the House of Representatives, the debate on the extension of the bills took a different turn when the minority leader, backed by his caucus, asked that the bills be stepped down and reviewed.
This process and procedure might not appear to be completely correct, and therefore I would suggest that the House leader steps down this bill, and then we go back to the drawing board. Look at it, all the projects that are contained in 2023 budget and 2023 supplementary budget, we take them over to the 2024 supplementary budget so that we can have just 2 budgets running in the country. That way, we would have achieved everything that we intend to achieve.
I admire the minority leader who has been in this chamber for the last 4 sessions, and he knows the procedure and he knows the way things are being done. You cannot extend the period of supplementary budget without extending the period of the main budget, which hinges on the main budget. And the question here is this right? Yes, the answer is right, because it is within the law of the Appropriation Act that we can extend any part of the act.
Mr. Speaker, I want to honestly say that even though it's legal, Mr. Speaker, this is unprecedented. You have 2 substantive budgets, 2023, being extended to 31st of December and running them concurrently. You have other supplementary budgets being carried also at the same time, Mr. Speaker. I want to say without any fear of contradiction that they may be legal, but that moral feeling, that moral responsibility, Mr. Speaker, that moral questions will always be raised. Reason why I rise to say so, Mr. Speaker, is for us as a house and an institution, while we have no cause whatsoever to stop it, I will be for it, and I will urge people to be for it. But at least at this critical moment, we must unite ourselves and we must stand collectively and send a signal to the government of the Federation.
I want to please urge and implore our members to please support this. It is to enhance the security of this country, without which nothing can move. So please kindly support this for the progress of our country, please.
The House goes into an executive session to avert an escalation, after which there are no more opposing voices as the bills are passed. Back in the upper chamber, the controversial issue of the purchase of a presidential aircraft is raised.
To make it clear and to alert Nigerians that there is the presence of a 5th columnist and some other propagandists who are doing everything possible to destabilize this country and also destabilize the parliament. Mr. President, I say for the record, as the leader of this Senate, that there is no request before this Senate as of yet. So there could not have even been a basis for us to debate whether we are going to approve or not. It had never been discussed either on the floor of this Senate or among individual senators or at the executive's closed session. There is no such request. If the request comes, it's not about Mr. President of the Senate alone.
We will look into issues that will benefit the governance of the country, irrespective of anticipatory blackmail. We will also take cognizance of the duties of Mr. President. If his vehicle is bad, we will repair the vehicle. If his plane is bad, we will approve money for the repair of the plane. So that is not an issue. There is nothing before us. I don't think you should bother about it.
Now let's take a look at some other activities of Parliament in this past week. The House Committee on Science Engineering's oversight visit to the Shedder Science and Technology Complex and the public hearing of the Committee on Corporate Social Responsibility are in focus. The House of Representatives Committee on Science Engineering paid an oversight visit to Shedder Science and Technology Complex in Abuja, where they were received by the Director General of the agency, Professor Paul Nyinikwe. Shedder Science and Technology Complex is a parastatal of the Federal Ministry of Science and Technology that conducts multidisciplinary research and development in various fields. After a tour around the facilities, the House Committee expressed concerns over the complex's condition due to inadequate funding.
We are not impressed by what we have seen here, because this institution, as a research institute, first, the government should have to make a very robust and effective budget system to be able to make this place work. We all see the kind of investment that is here, that is in billions, but it's lying fallow. Nothing positive is happening. Is it because of the lack of proper funding or lack of other issues? That will go back and discuss in the committee to see how we can partner with the DG and the management of SHEDA to see what can we do as a committee, what can the House of Representatives do as legislators, with the view to see how we can partner with the, Ministry of Science and Engineering, Science and Technology, to make this place work. Looking at the trend that is happening globally on the science and technology, Nigeria should not be left behind.
I'm well excited because their coming has been able to show them exactly. When I meet the committee and talk that and say we have this problem, we have that problem, it will be as if I'm just exaggerating. But now they have seen the situation on ground. And one good thing is that they're very objective. They're very objective and dedicated, and they have that passion to see this place develop. That's one happiness I'm really showing, because they've shown that they are passionate. They want the country to progress. We have a lot of equipment that are three-phase. Some of them are three-phase. We cannot use them. And some of these things we switch on and switch off. They are not supposed to be that way. Rather, when you switch them on, the highest end you put them to sleep, and then whenever you want to, you just put them on. But because you switch them off and on, many a time you discover that the memory system of that or some of these equipment will be lost because the internal battery may run down before you know it, and when it runs down, the system will be seriously affected.
The DG further reiterated their collaboration with universities to address the manpower gap and secure funding from sources like TET Fund. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives Committee investigating the implementation of the corporate social responsibility by multinational oil companies operating in the South-South zone is threatening to take action against companies operating in the region who have refused to honor invitations from the committee. Chairman of the committee, Professor Lilian Orogbu, stated this at the resumed hearing.
MTN, Airtel, they take so much from our nation, and they feel too big to appear before the parliament. We will have a very good fight after this bill. I would want you as a regulatory body to organize those telecommunication companies. We wouldn't want to have a situation whereby there will be a war between the parliament and the telecommunication industry. We gave them the powers to be here, to flout the invitations of the parliament is a no-no. We take exception to it. The parliament is frowning at it, and this is an opportunity for us to say it clearly, and I will make sure this thing is aired. The MTN is here, and I've taken all friendly measures to get them to understand the need to appear before the parliament. We've written NCC severally. If you feel you're responsible, if you feel you're civil, then you should appear before the parliament. That's civility. That's acting responsible. We want you to be responsible. We want you to be accountable.
Welcome back to the Gavel. The House Committee on Petroleum Resources Upstream had a meeting with the management team of the Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, led by its chief executive, Benga Komolafe. Here's how that went.
At the meeting between the House of Representatives Committee on Petroleum Resources Upstream and Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, the lawmakers raised a plethora of questions bordering on gas flaring and regulation of the industry.
The question would be for you to make brief explanation as to how you or what strategies you intend to deploy to deepen this your gas flare commercialization program. I am more into sustainable development, conservation, cleaner energy, and clean development mechanisms. I also saw in your page before the amount you have put down as penalty for gas flare and how much you've realized and all of that. So your policy, is it towards containing the gas flare so that you can divest from this pollution of the environment and converting it into energy that will be affordable and accessible?
What investments in clear term, in layman term, forget about technicality so that people on the streets will know what are the investments supports is your commission bringing to the development of the industry at large?
We charge the producers to meet their domestic supply obligations as factored to them by the commission. Now, we made it very clear to them that it is the interest of the nation that will ensure, that is sustenance of our domestic refining capacity so that there's no energy supply gap in the country. We've made that very clear. And again, read the provisions of the Petroleum Industry Act to them. So after the meeting, I think that flagged off the compliance with the provisions of the law that the producers recognize their obligations to actually make crude available to the domestic refineries.
The NUPRC boss also responded to issues of subsidy in the petroleum industry.
There's nowhere in the world that you run upstream on subsidy basis. The upstream everywhere in the world is run as a private business. Governments don't get involved in development of that is hydrocarbons, in well development or field development. Government don't get involved. It is run as a private business. So on the basis of that, so what we are confronted with is that for the regulator to do price fixing for the upstream is not going to lead us to anywhere. I need to be very frank with us. Because what we are going to do is that once we do price fixing, and of course I need to do again say that it is not only that the regulator will not be willing to do that, but to do that will be completely antithetical and completely against the provisions of the PIA, which will ask us to implement. The provisions of the PIA, expert provisions of the PIA is that yes, domestic crude supply obligations should be enforced on willing seller, willing buyer basis. So, which means that we've enforced the availability of the cargo. Parties, you meet yourself and you discuss, and of course, on a monthly basis, the Commission publishes the guiding prices in line with the market fundamentals.
Chairman of the committee, Adodo Gua, commended the NUPRC and pledged the committee's support.
Going forward, we should continue to actually forge ahead and be holding this kind of engagements frequently. Because if we continue to dialogue with you and create an opportunity where we dialogue not only between you and the committee, but in an open public space, that will also be a credit to your own organization, an organization that is being looked upon to be transparent, to be efficient, and to also be accountable to the people of the country. So there's nothing bad if we engage on a 24-hour basis, because the more we know about what you do, and the better for you as an organization, and also better for members of the committee and our people at large. I want to thank you once again, and like I said, we will continue to be there for your organization, for as long as what you do will be in the interest or overall interest of the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The government being facing a lot of economic challenges, issues to do with funding the public budget, public financing. The only way we can support the government of the day is for us to look inward and outward.
And on Constituency Focus this week, we speak with Senator Shuaibu Afolabi, representing Ogun West Federal Constituency. Now, Constituency Focus puts lawmakers on the hot seat, questioning how impactful their representation has been on their constituents.
What have I done in the last 6 months or so that I've been here? First, from the perspective of my constituency, number one of the first things I did was to do training for our youth. We have a large percentage of Nigerian population that is youth. And therefore, the first thing I did was to do training for 50 selected youth for almost 2 weeks across the 6 local government of Ogun Central Senatorial District. Not only did we train them, we also provided them with tools, particularly laptop. And what makes this project different is that we're not just giving them tools or giving them training, we're doing a follow-up. So they've been given the training, they've been given a laptop, and they've also come back in a few months to showcase what they have been able to do, because it is the continuous process. The second thing in that area as well is that I've been able to attract a few ICT centers. So there's an ICT community center that will be formally unveiling very soon in Abeokuta. And we have also done 2 ICT centers in 2 secondary schools, one in the local government, the other one in the 4 local government, as part of creating opportunities and platforms for the children, particularly the secondary school students, to learn about ICT skill. That is a new learning, that's the new knowledge, particularly in an area that the global competitiveness of nations is no longer determined by the amount of minerals under the soil, but by the assets that your citizens carry in their head. Therefore, we are catching them young. We are doing this. But we also need to speak to the issue of sustainability, particularly the issue of climate. Recently, the whole world gathered in Dubai to talk about climate change. But we also recognize that, particularly for our women. So we have done training for about 300 women for them to be aware about the individual responsibility to maintaining a very conducive climate that we can pass on to the next generation. So these 300 women, they were trained on the impact of burning forests, the impact of using firewood instead of gas, and they were also provided with cooking gas materials in order to move them away from activities that could impact negatively on the climate, to things that are sustainable. These are some of the things we have done within the constituency. But on a global scale, on a national scale rather, 65-70% of our population is youth. But we have, even with the best efforts, we can't get employment for all of them in one fell swoop. What do we need to do? Someone has read pharmacy, has read computer science, has read medicine. He has graduated, he has served. There's no job. A few things happen to him. Number one, he doesn't have a productive engagement, so he's idle, he's available. For those of them who might not be strong enough, they're available to do things that are, if you like, against social norms. Number two, they're also losing their skills. You graduate, you don't have the skills. You don't have an opportunity to practice the skills. Number three, you also don't have a stipend. So their confidence in themselves, the dignity of the school, the education they've had, begins to be eroded. So this bill seeks to achieve 2 things. Number one, if somebody has studied mass communication as an example, and the Minister of Information does not have a permanent employment for him, or the channels of this or of TVC, they can afford to have him on internship. Maybe 3 days a week. And it's based on stipends. What this does is, number one, we will have a national database of people who are looking for employment, or are underemployed or underemployed. As the saying goes, if you cannot measure it, you cannot manage it.
Well, that's all the time we have for the Gavel this week. Thanks for your time, and remember to send feedback to the Gavel at channelstv.com. I'm Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.